Captain Veltar gazed out from his warship's bridge into the endless stars. His vessel was enormous, stretching 3,000 meters with firepower capable of obliterating a small moon. 11 identical ships drifted alongside him in the void. They represented the Xerian Empire's finest. Nothing in the galaxy could challenge them. This assignment was meant to be routine. The Galactic Council dispatched them to greet a newly discovered race known as humans. These beings inhabited a tiny blue world at the galaxy's rim. They'd barely mastered interstellar flight. Their largest vessels were smaller than Zephyrian shuttles. "Commander," Officer Crix announced, "we've monitored these humans for 3 years. They're technologically backward. Their armaments rely on primitive chemical reactions. Their spacecraft use basic metals. They won't present difficulties," Veltar agreed. Every intelligence report confirmed it. Humans resembled most emerging civilizations, constantly warring amongst themselves. Aggressive and headstrong, yet ultimately feeble. Their capabilities lagged millennia behind Zaharian standards. The humans requested this encounter. They sought Galactic Council membership. Almost laughable. These underdeveloped beings believed they deserved seats alongside the galaxy's dominant powers. They planned to display their fleet as proof of readiness. "What's their ship count?" Veltar inquired. "A single vessel, Commander," Crix answered. "Long-range detection confirms one craft, roughly 800 meters. Tiny compared to our dreadnoughts." Veltar felt sympathy stirring. The Galactic Council employed this strategy with all newcomers. Deploy an overwhelming fleet for intimidation purposes. Then present options. Accept minor membership or face annihilation. Most civilizations chose survival. The intelligent ones always did. The rendezvous point lay within an asteroid field, neutral territory between human space and the closest Zephyrian station. Veltar's forces would arrive first, demonstrating dominance. The humans would witness 12 colossal warships and recognize their proper station. "All vessels initiate hyperspace sequence," he commanded. Space warped around the fleet. Reality twisted inward. Light flashed, and suddenly they occupied different coordinates. The asteroid field sprawled before them. Boulders the size of structures tumbled slowly through emptiness. There, already waiting, floated the human craft. Veltar examined it through the primary screen. It appeared dark against the starfield. The exterior was seamless and black. He spotted no visible armament, no protective field generators, no powerful drives like those on Zephyrian vessels. It resembled a freight hauler more than a combat ship. "Commence scanning," he directed. Kixnol, his science officer and one of the fleet's premier sensor specialists, worked her console. If anyone could uncover this human vessel's secrets, she could. "Commander," she reported minutes later, "the readings are peculiar." Define peculiar. "The hull consists of unidentified materials, far denser than our plating. The energy output reads extremely low, almost like it's absorbing our sensor beams rather than bouncing them back." Veltar's expression darkened. Unusual indeed. Most spacecraft appeared clearly on detection systems. This human ship remained nearly invisible. "Detect any weapons?" he pressed. "Nothing identifiable, Commander. No plasma batteries, no rocket bays, no beam emitters. It appears peaceful." Veltar relaxed slightly. Perhaps humans possessed more wisdom than anticipated. Perhaps they'd brought a civilian transport to prevent conflict. That would simplify matters considerably. He could deliver standard surrender terms without violence. He activated communications. Before speaking, something caught his attention. The human ship was moving, not approaching, not retreating. It rotated slowly, spinning around its center axis. "Commander," Kixnol's voice carried concern, "the vessel is transforming." As the human craft turned, Veltar noticed details previously hidden. What seemed a smooth, basic hull actually held far more complexity. Lines and seams covered the surface, panels and sections that looked openable. "Commander," Kixnol repeated, "those might be weapon hatches." Veltar stared as the human ship continued its slow rotation. More features became visible. What appeared to be a peaceful transport now resembled something entirely different. "Get me a complete structural analysis," he ordered. "Attempting, Commander, but their hull blocks most scans. It's designed specifically to defeat our sensors." The human vessel completed its turn. Now he could see markings on the exterior. His computer translated the human symbols. 3 words materialized on his display. "Uses, consequences. Strange name for a peaceful craft. In Zephyrian tradition, ships bore beautiful names, flowers, melodies, artwork. But consequences sounded threatening. "Commander," his weapons officer shouted, detecting movement on the human craft. "Something's happening to their hull." Veltar watched with mounting dread. The smooth exterior panels were separating. Hull sections folded backward like blooming petals. Underneath, he glimpsed the vessel's true character. Gun barrels emerged from concealed openings. Massive, thick cylinders designed to hurl heavy rounds at devastating velocities. Missile systems unfolded from hidden compartments. Dozens of smaller weapons sprouted everywhere. Automated defense guns that tracked and aimed independently. "By the 7 moons," Crix breathed. "It's not a transport whatsoever." The human ship metamorphosed before their eyes. What resembled a simple civilian vessel revealed itself as one of the most heavily weaponized craft Veltar had encountered. And the transformation continued. "Commander," Kixnall reported shakily, "energy readings are surging. The power outputs I'm detecting are theoretically impossible. This ship has been concealing its true strength." Additional weapons appeared. Energy projectors radiating contained power, railguns capable of accelerating projectiles to substantial fractions of light speed, torpedo launchers seemingly able to fire planet-destroying warheads. "How many armaments does that thing carry?" Veltar asked. "I'm counting over 200 distinct weapon platforms, Commander. And that's only what's visible. More might hide internally." Veltar's stomach sank. His dreadnought mounted 50 weapon systems, considered among the galaxy's most formidable. This human vessel carried 4 times that number, and they all appeared more sophisticated than anything in the Zephyrian inventory. "Commander," his communications officer interjected, receiving transmission from the human craft. "Display it." The view screen flickered. The face appearing was unlike anything Veltar had seen. The human was elderly with cropped gray hair and facial scars. His eyes held hardness and coldness. This was someone who'd survived countless battles and emerged victorious every time. "I'm Admiral Chen of the United Earth Space Command," the human stated calmly and steadily. "I assume you're here for our membership assessment." Veltar struggled, finding his voice. "Your vessel appears considerably more sophisticated than our intelligence indicated." Admiral Chen smiled. The expression held no warmth. "The Consequences is a Retribution-class heavy cruiser. She's our diplomatic ship." Diplomatic? Veltar couldn't hide his bewilderment. This was the most heavily armed vessel he'd witnessed. How could they label it diplomatic? In human thinking, Admiral, diplomacy means saying nice doggy while searching for a bigger stick. Chen paused. "The Consequences is an exceptionally big stick." Veltar consulted his tactical readouts. His weapons officer was rapidly updating threat calculations. The human craft could obliterate his entire fleet. Its armor could withstand direct plasma strikes. Its armaments could pierce energy barriers like tissue. "How many vessels like this do you possess?" Veltar asked, dreading the response. Admiral Chen's smile widened. "That's classified, Captain. But I'll mention this. Every civilization we've encountered has asked that identical question." Veltar felt coldness run through him. The humans had met other races, and judging by Chen's confidence, those meetings favored humanity. "We were informed that humans were primitive," Veltar stated. "We were," Chen acknowledged. "Several hundred years ago, we fought each other using swords and spears. But we adapt quickly, and we've always excelled at warfare." On the tactical display, additional information appeared. The human ship's missile arrays alone could devastate half his fleet. Its main batteries could punch holes through planetary bodies, and according to scans, this was merely one ship. "Your vessel seems built for devastation," Veltar observed. "Correct," Chen said plainly. "We construct our ships to end conflict swiftly. We've discovered the best war prevention is being so dangerous nobody wants to engage you." Veltar began understanding. The humans hadn't sent a primitive transport to plead for membership. They'd sent a warning. This ship demonstrated human capability, a message to the galaxy that humanity wasn't weak. "We should start the assessment," Chen said, "unless you'd rather withdraw." Veltar regarded his fleet. 12 dreadnoughts that had been the Zephyrian Empire's pride. Ships that had conquered numerous worlds. Ships that now looked small and inadequate compared to the human vessel before them. "No," he finally said. "We'll continue with the assessment." Chen nodded. "Excellent. Should we begin with defensive capability demonstrations?" Before Veltar could respond, the human ship's defense systems activated. Hundreds of small turrets emerged from the hull. They moved with incredible speed and accuracy, tracking imaginary threats. The targeting systems painted his ships with laser markers. The message was obvious. The consequences could destroy his entire fleet within minutes. Impressive, Veltar managed. That's merely the start, Chen replied. Would you like seeing our offensive capabilities? Veltar wasn't certain he wanted to, but he nodded regardless. He needed to know humanity's true potential. The galaxy needed to know. The human craft began powering its primary weapons. Energy readings climbed to levels that seemed impossible. The main batteries rotated toward a nearby asteroid, a rock the size of a small moon. Fire, Chen commanded. The consequences unleashed a single shot. A projectile traveling at incredible velocity struck the asteroid. For one moment, nothing occurred. Then the entire rock exploded into powder and fragments. Where a small moon had existed, now only empty space remained. Veltar stared at the vacant space where the asteroid had been. His ships could damage such rocks. It would require dozens of shots in several minutes. The humans had destroyed it with one projectile. That was our main kinetic cannon, Chen explained. We have 12 of them. 12 weapons capable of destroying moons. Veltar felt his confidence dissolving. The Zephyrian Empire had dominated this galactic sector for 1,000 years. Their ships were feared throughout known space. But compared to this human vessel, they were children with toys. We should discuss terms, Veltar said weakly. Terms? Chen looked puzzled. We're not here to negotiate surrender, Captain. We're here to join the Galactic Council as equals. Equals. The word struck Veltar like a physical impact. The humans didn't want protection. They didn't want junior status. They wanted seats at the high table with the galaxy's great powers. And after witnessing the consequences, Veltar knew they'd earned that privilege. The assessment process differed from anything Veltar had experienced in his 40 years of military duty. Every test the Galactic Council used for measuring new civilizations was designed around familiar technology. Plasma armaments, energy barriers, gravity propulsion. The humans used none of these. Instead, they'd developed weapons and defenses operating on completely different concepts. Show us your shield technology, Veltar requested, reading from standard assessment procedures. Admiral Chen looked amused. We don't use energy shields, Captain. We found them inefficient. Then how do you protect your vessels? Armor, Chen said simply. And point defense systems. Veltar frowned. Armor was primitive. Every advanced civilization had moved beyond physical protection centuries ago. Energy shields could stop any projectile or beam weapon. Why would humans stick with outdated technology? Demonstrate your armor's effectiveness, Veltar said. Very well. Target one of our secondary hull sections with your plasma cannons. Use half power. Veltar hesitated. Even at half strength, Zahirian plasma weapons could melt through a kilometer of solid rock. He didn't want to accidentally destroy the human ship and trigger war. You're certain? Quite certain, Captain. Fire when ready. Veltar gave the order. One of his dreadnoughts unleashed a plasma blast at the consequences. The beam struck the human ship's hull and spread across the surface like water on stone. For several seconds, the armor glowed white-hot. Then the energy dissipated, leaving no apparent damage. Interesting, Chen observed. Your plasma weapons operate at approximately 15 million degrees. Our armor is rated for temperatures up to 50 million degrees. Veltar stared at his scanner readings. The human ship had absorbed enough energy to power a small city for a year. The armor hadn't been scratched. How is that possible? We learned early in our space age that the best defense isn't deflecting attacks, but absorbing them. Our armor contains material layers that can store and dissipate incredible energy amounts. What doesn't get absorbed distributes across the entire hull. His science officer, Kixnol, worked frantically. Commander, the human ship's hull temperature is already normalizing. Whatever energy the armor absorbed, it's dispersing it somehow. Heat sinks, Chen explained. The absorbed energy converts to waste heat and radiates away through specialized hull systems. A single armor section can absorb direct hits from weapons far more powerful than your plasma cannons. Veltar began understanding why humans didn't use energy shields. Their armor was superior, more reliable, harder to overload or breach. What about your weapons, he asked. We saw your kinetic cannon destroy the asteroid, but surely you have energy weapons too. We do, Chen confirmed. But we prefer kinetic systems for ship combat. Why? Energy weapons are more efficient. They travel at light speed. They can't be intercepted. Chen smiled that cold smile again. Energy weapons can be deflected by shields. They can be absorbed by armor. But a tungsten rod moving at 30% light speed cannot be stopped by anything except direct target impact. Veltar felt his blood freeze. 30% of light speed. The kinetic energy of such a projectile would be enormous. No shield could stop it. No armor could absorb it. Your main guns fire solid projectiles at relativistic speeds. Our main guns, yes, but we have other weapons too. Would you like a demonstration? Before Veltar could answer, the consequences rotated toward another asteroid. This one was smaller, only a few hundred meters across. Admiral Chen spoke one word into his communicator. Swarm. Dozens of missiles launched from hidden openings on the human ship. But these weren't normal missiles. As they flew toward the asteroid, each one split into smaller projectiles. Those split again and again. What started as dozens became hundreds, then thousands of smaller warheads. The swarm of micro-missiles reached the asteroid and began impacting the surface. Each explosion was small, but there were so many. Within seconds, the entire rock was being torn apart from inside. The asteroid collapsed into rubble. Then the rubble was pulverized into dust. Cluster munitions, Chen explained. Each missile carries 50 submunitions. Each submunition carries 10 micro-warheads. Very effective against large targets. Veltar watched the dust cloud that had once been solid rock. How many of those missiles do you carry? Classified, Chen replied. But I'll say this. We have enough ammunition to fight a sustained battle for several weeks without resupply. Several weeks. Veltar's ships carried enough ammunition for perhaps 6 hours of combat. After that, they'd need returning to base for rearming. The human ship could fight for weeks without support. Your range? Veltar asked. Our kinetic weapons are effective at distances up to half a light year, Chen said casually. Our missile systems have no practical range limit. Veltar nearly collapsed from his command chair. Half a light year. That was farther than most ships could travel in hyperspace, before needing to stop and recalculate positions. The humans could engage targets from distances so great that enemies wouldn't even know they were under attack. That's impossible, Kixnall whispered. No targeting system can be accurate at such ranges. Ours can, Chen said. We use a combination of predictive algorithms and real-time data from scout drones. Our targeting computers can calculate a moving target's position up to 6 months in advance. 6 months. The humans could fire at a target and hit it half a year later, compensating for all movement and course changes the target might make in that time. Your technology, Veltar said slowly, is far more sophisticated than we were informed. We're skilled at hiding our capabilities, Chen agreed. Most civilizations see what we want them to see. Primitive chemical rockets, simple metal hulls, basic radio communications. They assume we're backward and weak. But you're not. No, Captain, we're not. Veltar looked at his fleet. 12 of the most powerful warships in known space. Ships that had conquered star systems and destroyed entire civilizations. But compared to this single human vessel, they were nothing. Toys, relics of a more primitive age. How long have you been spacefaring? He asked. We achieved faster-than-light travel 200 years ago, Chen replied. Before that, we spent 300 years developing our technology within our own star system. 500 years. That was nothing compared to the millennia the Zepyrian Empire had been traveling between stars. Yet in that short time, humans had developed technology surpassing anything the galaxy had ever seen. You learn quickly, Veltar observed. We had to, Chen said, and for the first time his expression grew serious. Our home system is surrounded by hostile territory. When we first achieved interstellar travel, we encountered 17 different civilizations. 16 of them tried to conquer or destroy us. And the 17th? They became our allies. After seeing what happened to the other 16, Veltar felt a chill run through him. The humans had fought 16 different civilizations and won. No wonder their ships were so heavily armed. No wonder their technology was so advanced. They'd been forced to become the galaxy's apex predators just to survive. The civilizations you fought, Veltar said carefully. What happened to them? Some learned to respect human territory and signed peace treaties. Others continued being aggressive and had to be dealt with more permanently. Dealt with permanently. Veltar understood what that meant. Some civilizations no longer existed because they'd underestimated humanity. We're not conquerors, Captain, Chen continued. We don't seek to rule other civilizations. We simply want to be left alone. But we've learned that the only way to ensure peace is to be so powerful that nobody dares disturb it. The communication was interrupted by an alarm from Veltar's sensor station. Kixnol stared at her displays in shock. "Commander," she called out, detecting multiple hyperspace signatures. "Something large is approaching." Admiral Chen checked his own displays. Right on schedule. "What's approaching?" Veltar demanded. "The rest of the diplomatic mission," Chen replied calmly. Space began twisting and bending around them. Reality folded as massive objects emerged from hyperspace. One ship appeared, then another, then a dozen more. Veltar stared in horror as a human fleet materialized around them. Each ship was different in design, but all were clearly built for warfare. Some were long and sleek, bristling with missile tubes. Others were broad and heavy, covered in armor plating and gun turrets. A few were strange angular shapes that hurt to look at, their hulls seeming to bend light around them. "How many ships?" he whispered. 47, Chen replied. "This is Battle Group 7, a standard diplomatic escort." A diplomatic escort. 47 ships that could probably destroy every fleet in the galaxy, and the humans called it a standard escort. "Commander," Kixnol reported, her voice barely controlled. "I'm reading over 3,000 separate weapon systems. The combined firepower of that fleet could sterilize a planet." "Actually," Chen corrected, "we could sterilize several planets, but we prefer not to. Environmental destruction is wasteful." One of the new ships was moving closer. It was enormous, easily twice the size of his dreadnought. As it approached, sections of its hull began opening, revealing weapons that made the consequences look lightly armed. "That's the UES Reckoning," Chen explained. "Our flagship. She mounts our latest generation of planet cracker weapons. Planet cracker weapons designed to destroy planets from orbit. We developed them after encountering a civilization that hid their military installations underground. Rather than waste time with orbital bombardment, we found it more efficient to simply crack the planet open and examine the core." Veltar couldn't speak. The humans had weapons that could destroy entire worlds, not just life on the surface, but the actual physical planet. They could crack a world like an egg and examine its contents. Why? He finally managed. "Why build such terrible weapons?" "Because sometimes terrible problems require terrible solutions," Chen replied. 3 years ago, we encountered a civilization called the Devourers. They consumed all organic matter on the planets they conquered. They couldn't be reasoned with. They couldn't be stopped by conventional weapons, so we developed unconventional weapons. What happened to the Devourers? "They're extinct," Chen said simply. "We cracked their homeworld and destroyed their entire civilization in a single day. It was the only way to stop them from consuming more innocent civilizations." The human fleet was now fully deployed around them. Veltar's 12 dreadnoughts were completely surrounded by ships that could destroy them with ease. But the humans made no threatening moves. They simply waited, their weapons powered but not targeted. "This is a very large escort for a diplomatic mission," Veltar observed. "We've learned that diplomacy works better when backed by overwhelming force," Chen replied. "Most civilizations are more willing to negotiate when they understand the consequences of refusing." Consequences, like the name of Chen's ship. Veltar was beginning to understand human thinking. They didn't threaten. They didn't bluster. They simply demonstrated what would happen if negotiations failed. "Your civilization," Veltar said slowly, "approaches diplomacy unlike any other." "We approach everything unlike any other civilization," Chen replied. "We have to. We're surrounded by enemies. We're outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1. The only reason we survive is because we're more dangerous than anything else in the galaxy. More dangerous than anything else in the galaxy." Veltar looked at the human fleet surrounding his ships. 47 vessels, each one a masterpiece of destructive engineering. Ships that could fight for weeks without resupply. Weapons that could destroy planets. Armor that could absorb a star's full power. "We should begin the formal assessment," Chen said. "Unless you've seen enough." Veltar looked at his crew. They were all staring at the human ships with expressions of fear and awe. These were veteran soldiers who'd fought in dozens of battles, but they'd never seen anything like this. "We've seen enough," Veltar said quietly. "Good," Chen replied. "Then let's discuss terms for human membership in the Galactic Council. Terms, not requests, not applications. Terms. The humans weren't asking to join the Council. They were telling the galaxy what their membership would look like. Veltar realized that everything had changed. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in a single moment. Humanity had just announced that they were no longer the weak, primitive civilization everyone thought they were. They were something far more dangerous. The formal assessment continued for 6 more hours. During that time, Veltar witnessed demonstrations of technology that challenged everything he thought he knew about warfare. The human fleet showed capabilities that seemed to violate basic physics laws. "Our next test involves defensive systems," Veltar announced, reading from the assessment procedures. "Please demonstrate your ability to defend against multiple simultaneous attacks." Admiral Chen nodded to his communications officer. Across the human fleet, ships began moving into formation, but it wasn't like any formation Veltar had ever seen. Instead of arranging themselves in neat lines or geometric patterns, the human ships scattered seemingly randomly. Some moved close together, others drifted far apart. A few disappeared entirely, becoming invisible to sensors. "What formation is this?" Veltar asked. "We call it adaptive clustering," Chen replied. "Each ship is positioned to provide maximum defensive coverage, while minimizing the chance that a single weapon can damage multiple vessels." Veltar studied the formation on his tactical display. It looked chaotic, but as he watched, he began seeing the pattern. Every ship was positioned to cover its neighbor's blind spots. Weapon arcs overlapped in complex ways. No matter which direction an attack came from, at least 6 human ships would be able to respond. "Interesting," he admitted. "But how do you coordinate such a complex formation during battle?" "We don't," Chen said. "Each ship operates independently, following basic engagement rules. No central command is required. No central command." Veltar was shocked. Every space navy he knew used centralized battle management. Orders flowed from flagship to escort vessels. Destroying the command ship usually meant the end of fleet coordination. How can you fight effectively without central coordination? "Our commanders are trained to think for themselves," Chen explained. "Every captain knows the mission objectives and is free to pursue them as they see fit. This makes our fleets very difficult to predict or counter." A demonstration began. The human ships launched thousands of practice missiles at each other. The projectiles weren't armed, but they moved at combat speeds and followed realistic attack patterns. Veltar watched in amazement as the defensive systems responded. Point defense turrets tracked and destroyed incoming missiles with incredible accuracy. Some ships launched counter-missiles that intercepted attacks far from their targets. Others used energy weapons to detonate warheads before they could reach their destination. A few vessels deployed clouds of metallic chaff that confused guidance systems and caused missiles to miss entirely. "Success rate?" Chen asked his tactical officer. 96% interception, sir. The remaining 4% were stopped by armor. 96%. Veltar's best defense systems could stop perhaps 60% of incoming missiles, and that was against known weapon types. The human systems had stopped nearly everything thrown at them. "How many attacks can you defend against simultaneously?" Veltar asked. "We've never found our limit," Chen replied. "Our record is defending against over 10,000 incoming missiles in a single engagement." 10,000 missiles. Veltar's entire fleet couldn't carry that many weapons. The humans had faced attacks that would overwhelm any known defense system and survived. "The civilization that attacked you with 10,000 missiles," Veltar said carefully. "What happened to them?" "They learned not to attack human ships," Chen said. His tone suggested the lesson had been expensive. The next test involved offensive capabilities. The human fleet selected a large asteroid as their target. This one was several kilometers across and made of dense metallic ore. It would take Veltar's entire fleet working together to destroy such a massive object. "Demonstrate your ability to engage a hardened target," Veltar requested. "Certainly," Chen replied. "What level of destruction would you like to see?" "What levels are available?" "We can disable the target, damage it severely, destroy it completely, or vaporize it entirely." 4 levels of destruction. Most weapons had only 2 settings, on and off. The humans apparently had fine control over exactly how much damage they inflicted. "Show us complete destruction," Veltar decided. Admiral Chen spoke into his communicator. "All ships target the asteroid. Coordinated bombardment. Level 3 destruction." The human fleet opened fire, but it wasn't the chaotic barrage Veltar expected. Instead, each ship fired in carefully timed sequence. Kinetic rounds struck the asteroid first, cracking its structure. Energy beams followed, heating the cracks until they widened. Missiles impacted next, their explosions driving wedges deep into the fractures. The asteroid held together for nearly 30 seconds. Then it came apart all at once, breaking into thousands of pieces that scattered in all directions. But the human fleet wasn't finished. Secondary weapons engaged, tracking and destroying the larger fragments. Within minutes, nothing remained but a cloud of dust and metal particles. Impressive coordination, Veltar observed. Each ship's targeting computer is linked to the others, Chen explained. They calculate the most efficient firing sequence automatically. No human input required. Automated battle management. The human ships could coordinate their attacks without any orders from their commanders. They thought and fought as a single entity, while maintaining the independence to adapt to changing situations. Your computers are very sophisticated, Veltar said. We've been developing artificial intelligence for over a century, Chen replied. Our battle computers can process information and make decisions faster than any biological mind. Artificial intelligence. Most civilizations avoided such technology. Thinking machines were dangerous. They could turn against their creators. But the humans seem to have mastered the art of building loyal artificial minds. Are you not concerned that your machines might rebel? Our AIs aren't slaves, Chen said. They're partners. We treat them with respect and they serve willingly. Some of our best ship commanders are artificial intelligences, AI ship commanders. Veltar tried imagining a battle computer with the authority to make command decisions. The idea was terrifying and fascinating simultaneously. The assessment moved to the next phase, mobility and speed. The human ships began demonstrating their movement capabilities, and once again they defied conventional understanding. Our hyperspace drives, Chen began, operate on principles different from yours. How so? Most civilizations create a bubble of folded space around their ships. They travel through hyperspace like submarines moving underwater. Our drives work differently. One of the human ships vanished, not slowly like a normal hyperspace jump. It simply disappeared instantly, leaving no energy signature or gravitational disturbance. Where did it go? Veltar demanded. Nowhere, Chen replied. It's still here. The ship reappeared suddenly in a completely different position. It had moved several thousand kilometers in the blink of an eye. Micro-jumps, Chen explained. Our drives can fold space in very small increments. We can appear to teleport across short distances without entering hyperspace. Teleportation. The human ships could disappear and reappear at will. No weapon could target them effectively if they could vanish between 1 second and the next. Range, Veltar asked weakly. Within a star system, unlimited. Our drives can micro-jump continuously without any cooling period or energy buildup. Unlimited range teleportation. The human ships could appear anywhere in a star system instantly. They could attack from any direction, disappear before return fire could reach them, and reappear somewhere else to attack again. This technology, Veltar said, gives you an enormous tactical advantage. Yes, Chen agreed. It also makes us very difficult to blockade or trap. Any human ship can escape from any situation simply by jumping away. More ships began demonstrating the micro-jump technology. They flickered in and out of existence like ghosts. One moment they were in formation. The next they were scattered across the asteroid field. Then they were back in formation as if they'd never moved. Training time, Veltar asked. Our pilots begin practicing micro-jumps as soon as they learn to fly, Chen replied. By the time they graduate to combat ships, they can perform jumps as naturally as turning or accelerating. Every human pilot was trained in teleportation combat. Veltar imagined trying to fight an enemy that could appear and disappear at will. It would be like fighting shadows. The final test was perhaps the most disturbing. The human fleet demonstrated their intelligence-gathering capabilities. Within minutes, they'd scanned every ship in Veltar's fleet. They knew the armor thickness, weapon loadouts, crew complement, and energy reserves of every Zeparian vessel. How? Veltar asked. Passive scanning, Chen explained. Our sensors can analyze the gravitational fields, electromagnetic emissions, and subspace distortions created by your ships. We can determine internal structure without sending active scanner beams. They'd been scanned without knowing it. The humans had complete intelligence on his fleet while keeping their own capabilities hidden. It was like fighting blind against an enemy who could see everything. What else can your sensors detect? Life signs, emotional states, individual biometric patterns. We can identify specific crew members and track their movements throughout your ships. They could see inside his ships, They knew how many people were aboard, where they were located, even what they were feeling. Privacy was impossible against human sensors. Your technology, Veltar said slowly, is far beyond anything we imagined possible. We had good teachers, Chen replied. Every civilization that tried to destroy us taught us something new. We learned from their weapons, their tactics, their mistakes. Each victory made us stronger. The humans had grown powerful by absorbing their enemy's knowledge. Every battle had been a learning experience. Every defeated foe had contributed to human advancement. The civilizations you encountered when you first reached the stars, Veltar said. You said 16 of them tried to destroy you. What were they like? Chen's expression darkened. Predators. All of them. They saw a young civilization with primitive technology and thought we'd be easy prey. They were wrong. What made you different? We refused to be victims, Chen said simply. Most young civilizations panic when faced with superior enemies. They try to hide or surrender or seek protection from stronger powers. We chose to fight. Against impossible odds? Yes, we were outnumbered, outgunned, and out-technologied. But we had one advantage our enemies didn't expect. What advantage? We were willing to do anything to survive. Anything at all. The way Chen said those words made Veltar's blood run cold. There was something dark in the Admiral's tone. Something that spoke of terrible decisions made in desperate times. The first civilization that attacked us was called the Hegemony. Chen continued. They'd conquered over 100 worlds. Their fleets were vast. Their technology was advanced. They thought humanity would surrender after the first battle. But you didn't. No. We fought them on Earth, in space, on every world they tried to take. When conventional weapons failed, we developed new ones. When their shields stopped our missiles, we invented weapons that ignored shields. When their armor protected them from our guns, we created projectiles that could punch through anything. How long did the war last? 12 years. In the end, the hegemony no longer existed. We destroyed every ship, conquered every world, eliminated every trace of their civilization. Total extinction. The humans hadn't just defeated their enemies, they'd erased them from existence. Was that necessary? Veltar asked. They gave us no choice, Chen replied. The hegemony didn't believe in surrender. They would have fought until every human was dead, so we ensured that every member of the hegemony died first. The asteroid field around them suddenly felt very cold. Veltar was in the presence of a civilization that had committed genocide to ensure their own survival. And judging by Admiral Chen's calm demeanor, they felt no guilt about it. The other 15 civilizations, Veltar said carefully, did they all meet the same fate? Some learned wisdom and survived, Chen replied. Others didn't. How many civilizations had humanity destroyed? How many cultures had been wiped out because they underestimated the small blue planet at the galaxy's rim? We don't enjoy killing, Chen said as if reading Veltar's thoughts. But we won't allow anyone to threaten human survival. That's our first and most important law. The assessment was complete. Veltar had seen enough to know that humanity was unlike any civilization the galaxy had ever encountered. They weren't just powerful. They were utterly ruthless when threatened, and they had the technology to back up their determination. I'll recommend immediate full membership, Veltar announced. Good, Chen replied. We look forward to working with the Galactic Council. But as Veltar looked at the human fleet surrounding his ships, he wondered if the Council was ready to work with humanity. These weren't the primitive creatures they'd expected to intimidate and absorb. These were predators who'd clawed their way to the top of the galactic food chain. And now they wanted a seat at the table with the other apex civilizations. The galaxy was about to change in ways nobody could predict. 3 days after the assessment, Veltar found himself in the council chambers on the neutral world of Nexus Prime. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from every major civilization in the galaxy. Sapirians, Alarians, crystalline entities, energy beings, and dozens of others. They'd all come to hear the report on humanity. The atmosphere was tense. Word had spread quickly through diplomatic channels that something unusual had happened during the human assessment. Veltar's preliminary report had been classified at the highest levels. Only the council leaders knew what had really occurred in that asteroid field. Captain Veltar, announced the council speaker, an ancient crystalline entity whose voice rang like wind chimes. Present your findings regarding the human application for membership. Veltar stood and activated the holographic display. Images of the human fleet appeared in the center of the chamber. Even as static recordings, the ships looked dangerous and alien. Honored Council, Veltar began. I must report that our previous intelligence regarding human capabilities was completely inaccurate. A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. The Alarian representative, Ambassador Keithvar, leaned forward in his floating chair. Inaccurate how, Captain? The humans are not a primitive civilization, Veltar said simply. Their technology surpasses our own in every measurable category. The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates spoke in dozens of languages, their translation devices struggling to keep up. The idea that a young civilization could be more advanced than the ancient cultures of the Council was almost unthinkable. Order, the speaker commanded. Captain, please elaborate. Veltar activated a recording of the asteroid destruction. The assembled delegates watched in silence as the human ships systematically dismantled rock formations that should have taken hours to destroy. Their weapons operate on principles we don't fully understand, Veltar continued. They can deliver kinetic projectiles at 30% of light speed. Their missile systems can engage targets at interstellar ranges. Their defensive systems can intercept over 96% of incoming attacks. Ambassador Keithvar floated closer to the display. These specifications cannot be accurate. No civilization can achieve such performance. I verified the measurements personally, Veltar replied. 3 times. The recording continued, showing the human ships performing micro-jumps. Several delegates gasped as the vessels disappeared and reappeared instantly across vast distances. Teleportation, whispered the ethereal representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell. They've mastered space folding at the micro level, Veltar confirmed. Their ships can appear anywhere within a star system without warning. They can strike and disappear before return fire is possible. The Alarian delegation was conferring among themselves in rapid, hushed tones. Ambassador Keithvar finally spoke. Captain, what's your assessment of human military strength? Veltar hesitated. This was the moment he'd been dreading. In my professional opinion, a single human battle group could defeat the combined fleets of any 3 council members. The chamber fell completely silent. The statement was so shocking that even the translation devices seemed to pause. That's impossible, declared the hegemar of the warrior caste. A massive reptilian being whose civilization had ruled through military might for millennia. No single fleet can match the combined power of multiple star nations. With respect, hegemar, Veltar replied, the human fleet I encountered carried enough firepower to sterilize multiple planets. Their defensive systems could withstand concentrated bombardment from dozens of dreadnoughts, and their mobility allows them to choose when and where to engage. How many ships did they bring to this assessment? Asked the speaker. 47, Veltar answered. And this represents what percentage of their total fleet? Veltar consulted his notes. They described it as a standard diplomatic escort. Admiral Chen suggested they have much larger forces available. The implications were staggering. If 47 ships constituted a minor diplomatic escort, how large was the human battle fleet? How many such groups did they possess? What do they want? Asked the ethereal representative. Full membership in the Council, Veltar reported. Immediate recognition as a Tier 1 military power. A permanent seat on the Security Council. The hegemar laughed, a sound like grinding stone. They demand what takes most civilizations centuries to earn. What makes them think they deserve such status? Veltar activated another recording. This one showed the human ship's armor absorbing plasma fire that should have vaporized it. The delegates watched in stunned silence. They've earned it through strength, Veltar said quietly. Ambassador Keithvar was studying the tactical data scrolling beside the holographic display. Captain, these energy readings, they suggest the human ships carry more firepower than our capital planet's orbital defense platforms. Correct, Veltar confirmed. Each human vessel is effectively a mobile battle station. How is this possible? Demanded the crystalline speaker. Our intelligence networks monitor all developing civilizations. We would have detected such advanced technology. The humans are exceptionally skilled at misdirection, Veltar explained. They allowed us to see primitive chemical rockets in simple metal hulls. Meanwhile, they were developing weapons that could destroy our best ships. The ethereal representative flickered with agitation. This suggests a level of deception that borders on the malicious. I don't believe their intentions are malicious, Veltar said carefully. But they're certainly cautious. Admiral Chen informed me that humanity has been attacked by 16 different civilizations since achieving faster-than-light travel. 16? The speaker's voice rang with disbelief. What happened to these attackers? Some signed peace treaties after being defeated, Veltar said. Others were completely destroyed. The chamber erupted again. The idea that a young civilization had fought and won against 16 different enemies was almost incomprehensible. Complete destruction? The Hegemar asked. You mean conquered? No, Veltar replied. I mean extinct. Several civilizations no longer exist because they underestimated human resolve. The weight of that statement settled over the chamber like a shroud. Genocide wasn't unknown in galactic history, but it was rare. Most civilizations preferred conquest to extinction. The complete destruction of multiple cultures suggested a level of ruthlessness that was deeply disturbing. They told you this openly? Ambassador Keithvar asked. Admiral Chen seemed to view it as a simple statement of fact, Veltar replied. Humans don't appear to feel guilt about defending themselves regardless of the cost to their enemies. The Hegemar leaned back in his massive chair. Even he, a representative of a warrior culture, seemed shaken by the implications. What's your recommendation, Captain? The speaker asked. Veltar had spent 3 sleepless days preparing for this moment. His recommendation would shape the future of galactic civilization. Grant them everything they ask for, he said firmly. Immediately, without conditions or delays. That's unprecedented, the speaker protested. So are the humans, Veltar replied. Honored Council, we have 3 choices. We can accept them as equals, reject their application, or attempt to delay and impose conditions. Explain the consequences of each choice, the speaker commanded. If we accept them as equals, humanity becomes our ally. They'll respect council authority and work within our established systems. This is clearly the best outcome. And if we reject them? Veltar's expression grew grim. Then humanity will proceed without us. They'll establish their own sphere of influence. Other civilizations will begin questioning council authority when they see that a single human battle group can outfight our combined fleets. And if we delay or impose conditions? Then we insult them, Veltar said simply. Admiral Chen made it very clear that humans don't respond well to perceived threats or disrespect. The Hegemar snorted. Are you suggesting we should fear these newcomers? Yes, Veltar said without hesitation. I'm suggesting exactly that. The brutally honest answer sent another wave of whispers through the chamber. A council military officer had just recommended fear as a basis for policy. Elaborate, the speaker demanded. Veltar activated one final recording. This one showed the human fleet's demonstration of planet cracker weapons. The delegates watched in horror as theoretical calculations showed what those weapons could do to inhabited worlds. Humans possess the ability to destroy planets, Veltar announced. Not just life on the surface, but the actual physical world. They developed these weapons to deal with a civilization called the Devourers. What happened to the Devourers? The ethereal representative asked, though its tone suggested it already knew the answer. They're extinct, Veltar confirmed. Humanity destroyed their homeworld and every colony they possessed in a single day. The chamber was absolutely silent. The concept of planet-killing weapons was theoretical for most civilizations. The energy requirements were enormous. The technical challenges seemed insurmountable. Yet humans had not only built such weapons, they'd used them. How many worlds can they destroy? Ambassador Keithvar asked quietly. I don't know, Veltar admitted. But Admiral Chen spoke of these weapons as if they were standard equipment. The Hegemar stood slowly, his massive frame towering over the other delegates. Captain, in your professional opinion, could human forces threaten council worlds? Veltar met the warrior's gaze steadily. Hegemar, in my professional opinion, human forces could threaten all council worlds simultaneously. The statement hit the chamber like a physical blow. The idea that a single civilization could challenge the entire galactic community was beyond most delegates' ability to comprehend. They have 47 ships, the Hegemar pointed out. That I saw, Veltar corrected. Admiral Chen suggested that was a minor force. He also mentioned that every human pilot is trained in combat operations. Every human ship is designed for warfare. Their entire civilization appears to be organized around the principle of military supremacy. Ambassador Keithvar was reviewing tactical data on his personal display. Captain, if your measurements are accurate, A single human ship could destroy a Council dreadnought. Easily, Veltar confirmed. And they have thousands of such ships? Unknown but probable. The implications were staggering. If humanity possessed even a few hundred ships like the consequences, they could challenge any power in the galaxy. If they had thousands, they could dominate everyone. What do you believe motivates them? The speaker asked. Survival, Veltar replied without hesitation. Everything about human behavior suggests a civilization that's been shaped by constant warfare. They think like soldiers because they've had to be soldiers. And now they want to be diplomats? They want to be left alone, Veltar corrected. But they've learned that the only way to ensure peace is to be so dangerous that nobody dares disturb it. The ethereal representative flickered thoughtfully. A civilization that achieves peace through superior firepower. It's pragmatic, the Hegemar admitted grudgingly. Nobody attacks an enemy they can't defeat. So what happens now? Ambassador Keithvar asked. Now we vote, the speaker announced. All in favor of granting humanity full council membership with all requested privileges. Veltar watched as hands, tentacles, appendages, and energy signatures were raised throughout the chamber. The vote wasn't unanimous, but it was decisive. The motion carries, the speaker announced. Humanity will be granted full membership in the Galactic Council effective immediately. As the delegates began filing out of the chamber, Ambassador Keithvar approached Veltar. Captain, do you believe we made the right choice? Veltar looked at the holographic display, still showing images of human ships. I believe we made the only choice that ensures our continued existence. You really think they would have attacked us? No, Veltar said. I think they would have ignored us, and that would have been worse. Ambassador Keithvar looked confused. How so? Because then other civilizations would see that council membership means nothing, that our protection is worthless, that real power lies with humanity. And now? Now humanity is part of the council. Their strength becomes our strength. Their enemies become our enemies, and their protection extends to all member worlds. Veltar gathered his reports and prepared to leave. He had one more message to send before his duties were complete. Captain, Ambassador Keithvar called out, what will you tell Admiral Chen? Veltar smiled grimly. I'll tell him that the galaxy is honored to welcome humanity as an equal partner in the Galactic Council. And what will you really be thinking? I'll be thinking that the galaxy just became a much safer place for anyone wise enough to be humanity's friend. 6 months after humanity joined the Galactic Council, Captain Veltar received an unexpected assignment. He was to serve as liaison officer aboard a human ship. The Council wanted someone with direct experience of human capabilities to observe their operations and report back. The ship was the UES Retribution, sister vessel to the Consequences. Veltar found himself standing in the docking bay of Nexus Prime Station, watching as the massive human warship approached. Even knowing what to expect, the sight was impressive. The Retribution was a kilometer of dark metal bristling with weapons, its hull scarred by battles fought in distant systems. As the airlocks connected, Veltar wondered what he would learn during his tour of duty. The past 6 months had been quiet. Humanity had taken their seat on the Council and participated in diplomatic discussions like any other member. But Veltar suspected there was much more to learn about his new allies. The airlock opened, and Admiral Chen stepped through. He looked exactly the same as he had during the assessment, calm and professional. Captain Veltar, Chen said, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. Welcome aboard the Retribution. Thank you for having me, Admiral. I'm looking forward to learning more about human operations. I think you'll find it educational, Chen replied. We've received orders to investigate a disturbance in the Outer Rim. Several Council worlds have gone silent. As they walked through the ship's corridors, Veltar was struck by the differences from Zephyrian vessels. The walls were thick and heavily armored. Emergency bulkheads could seal off sections instantly. Everything was built for survival under extreme conditions. Your ships are very robust, Veltar observed. We learned early that space is dangerous, Chen replied. Better to build something that can survive than something that looks pretty. They reached the bridge and Veltar got his first look at human command procedures. The crew worked with quiet efficiency, their actions coordinated but not rigid. Officers made decisions without constant approval from higher authority. Your command structure is less formal than ours, Veltar noted. We train our people to think for themselves, Chen explained. In combat, there's no time to ask permission for every action. A communications officer turned from her station. Admiral, we're receiving a priority message from the Council. Put it through. The main view screen activated, showing the familiar crystalline features of the Council speaker. But there was something wrong with the image. It flickered and distorted, breaking up with static. Human vessels, the speaker's voice was barely audible through the interference. Council worlds under attack. Unknown aggressors. Request immediate assistance. The transmission cut out. Chen studied the static on the screen with the expression of someone who'd seen such things before. When did that message arrive? He asked. 6 hours ago, sir, the communications officer replied. We've been trying to re-establish contact, but all Council frequencies are jammed. Chen turned to his tactical officer. Any other human ships in the area? Negative, sir. We're the only human vessel within 12 parsecs. What about Council forces? The 10th Zeparian fleet is approximately 4 days away. The Alarian Defense Force is 6 days out. Chen was quiet for a moment, processing the information. Veltar could see him calculating distances, response times, and tactical. Admiral, Veltar said, there are over 300 enemy vessels. Perhaps we should withdraw and wait for the fleet. Captain, Chen replied calmly, please observe carefully. You're about to see why humanity has survived when so many other civilizations haven't. Chen activated the ship's internal communication system. All hands, this is the Admiral. We've encountered hostile forces attacking Council worlds. As the only human vessel in range, it falls to us to respond. I know some of you are thinking that we're outnumbered. You're correct. But remember what we learned in training. It's not the size of the fleet that matters. It's the will to fight. The crew responded with a cheer that echoed through the corridors. Veltar was amazed. These humans were actually eager to fight against impossible odds. Begin the approach, Chen ordered. The retribution accelerated toward the enemy fleet. As they drew closer, Veltar could see the alien ships more clearly. They were beautiful in their own way, like living sculptures of crystal and metal, but they were also clearly hostile. Energy weapons tracked the approaching human ship. They're targeting us, the tactical officer reported. Expected, Chen replied. Begin evasive maneuvers. Launch reconnaissance drones. The ship began to weave through space, following an unpredictable path that made targeting difficult. Meanwhile, small drones launched from hidden bays and scattered throughout the enemy formation. What are the drones doing? Veltar asked. Learning, Chen said. Every civilization has patterns, preferred formations, standard tactics, weapon signatures. Our computers are analyzing their behavior. On the tactical display, the drones were sending back streams of data. The enemy ships moved in coordination, like a flock of birds or school of fish, but there were patterns to their movement, algorithms that could be predicted and exploited. Analysis complete, the tactical officer announced. Collective intelligence. Individual ships have minimal autonomy. Destroying command vessels should disrupt coordination. Chen nodded. Target priorities? 17 ships showing enhanced communication signatures, likely fleet commanders. Chen nodded. Weapons free. Engage priority targets. The retribution opened fire. But this wasn't the careful, measured bombardment Veltar had seen during the assessment. This was warfare at its most violent and efficient. Kinetic rounds punched through enemy shields like they were made of paper. Missiles streaked across space, their smart warheads adjusting course to compensate for evasive maneuvers. Energy beams sliced through crystal hulls, causing catastrophic structural failures. First target destroyed, the weapons officer reported. One of the enemy command ships exploded in a brilliant flash. Immediately, the smaller vessels around it began moving erratically, their coordination disrupted. Second target engaged. Another explosion. More enemy ships began drifting aimlessly as their command network collapsed. But the alien fleet wasn't helpless. Hundreds of ships turned toward the retribution, their weapons charging for a concentrated assault. Incoming fire, the tactical officer warned. Brace for impact, Chen ordered. Energy beams struck the human ship's armor. The hull glowed white-hot as it absorbed incredible amounts of energy, but the armor held, dispersing the heat through built-in cooling systems. Damage report? Minimal damage to outer hull, all systems operational. The enemy had thrown everything they had at the Retribution. It should have been enough to destroy any ship, but the human vessel absorbed the attack and kept fighting. Their turn, Chen said. The Retribution's main guns rotated toward the largest enemy formation. Veltar watched in fascination as the targeting computers calculated firing solutions for dozens of targets simultaneously. Fire! The space around the human ship erupted with weapons fire. Every gun, every missile tube, every energy projector fired at once. The enemy formation disappeared in a storm of explosions and debris. 17 targets destroyed, the weapons officer reported. Remaining enemy vessels are withdrawing. In less than 10 minutes, a single human ship had scattered an enemy fleet that outnumbered it 300 to 1. Veltar stared at the tactical display, trying to process what he'd witnessed. How, he asked. Superior technology, better training, and the will to fight, Chen replied. Also, we chose our battles carefully. We didn't try to destroy every enemy ship. We identified their weakness and exploited it. The command vessels. Exactly. Most civilizations that use collective intelligence have the same vulnerability. Cut off the head and the body dies. The enemy fleet was retreating toward the edge of the system. A few scattered ships remained, but they posed no threat. The battle was over. Admiral, the communications officer called out. I'm receiving transmissions from Nexus Prime. Station control is back online. Put them through. The view screen showed a relieved-looking station commander. Human vessel, this is Nexus Prime Control. Thank you for your assistance. We thought we were going to be destroyed. What happened? Chen asked. They came out of nowhere. Hundreds of ships jamming all communications. They demanded our surrender. When we refused, they began attacking civilian areas. Casualties were minimal thanks to you. Your attack disrupted their coordination before they could do serious damage. Chen nodded. We'll remain in the system until Council reinforcements arrive. As the connection closed, Veltar found himself staring at Admiral Chen with new understanding. You saved thousands of lives today, he said. We did our job, Chen replied simply. But why? This isn't a human world. These aren't your people. Chen looked at him with an expression that was both surprised and disappointed. Captain, they're council worlds. That makes them our responsibility. But the risk was acceptable. That's what military forces are for, to take risks so that others don't have to. Over the following days, as council reinforcements arrived and the situation stabilized, Veltar learned more about human military philosophy. They didn't fight for conquest or glory. They fought to protect, and they were willing to fight anyone, anywhere, against any odds if it meant saving innocent lives. Your civilization, Veltar said to Chen on the last day of his assignment, is unlike any other. How so? Most civilizations fight for themselves, for their territory, their resources, their people. You fight for principles. Chen considered this. We learned long ago that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. The Council represents the best hope for peace in the galaxy. We'll defend it even against impossible odds. Especially against impossible odds. That's when it matters most. As Veltar prepared to return to his own ship, he reflected on what he'd learned. Humanity hadn't joined the Council to gain protection or resources. They'd joined to provide protection to others. They saw themselves as guardians of galactic civilization. The thought was both comforting and terrifying. Comforting because it meant the Council had gained powerful allies who would fight to the death to defend it. Terrifying because it meant humanity would never back down from a fight. No matter how dangerous, Admiral, Veltar said as he prepared to leave. What happens when humanity encounters an enemy they can't defeat? Chen smiled that cold smile one last time. Captain, we haven't found that enemy yet. But if we do, I promise you this. We'll make them work for their victory. As Veltar's shuttle departed the Retribution, he looked back at the human warship. It was scarred from recent battle, but still deadly, still ready to fight. Like the civilization that built it, the ship radiated quiet confidence and lethal purpose. The galaxy had gained more than a new council member when humanity joined. It had gained a guardian that would never sleep, never surrender, and never allow evil to triumph unopposed. And for the first time since the assessment began, Veltar felt truly safe. Not because his own fleet was strong, but because somewhere in the darkness between the stars, human ships were on patrol, ready to answer any call for help. The age of human protection had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.